Do I look like a charity? This is my business, not a giveaway. You pay the price or you move on. Move away from me! Ah!
Before we begin this powerful story, please take a second to subscribe to this channel. On this channel, we share touching African stories that teach life lessons and inspire the heart. Like this video and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next emotional story. Now, let's begin. Mama Grace was a yam seller in Riverside Market. Every morning, before the sun had even kissed the rooftops, she would arrive with her yams stacked high, each one arranged with precision. Her yams were large, firm, and fresh. The kind that made every buyer pause and smile. People said if you wanted strong yams for pounding, Mama Grace's stall was the only place to go. But it was not her yams that made her unforgettable. It was her voice. "Do not touch if you are not buying," she would roar. Even before her voice reached them, people knew Mama Grace had arrived. Children darted away, men tightened their grip on their baskets, and women whispered nervously to one another. Her temper was legendary, and her reputation had grown to match her height. Mama Grace had not always been this way. 10 years ago, she had laughed easily. She had loved her husband, Daniel, deeply. He was gentle and cheerful, a delivery van driver who always returned home with a small gift or a funny story. Their children adored him, and Mama Grace adored him. Their home was small but full of warmth and love. But everything changed one night. Daniel did not come home. At first, she thought he had been delayed. Then a knock came at the door late at night. 2 officers stood there, their faces solemn. There had been an accident on the highway. Daniel would never return. The world turned cold, debts piled up, friends vanished, relatives turned distant. Mama Grace was left with her children and a small plot of land she had inherited, which she used to start selling yams. At first, she tried to be kind. She smiled at customers. She greeted new traders. She trusted people. But the market had no mercy. People cheated her, gave her fake money, insulted her, or bargained as though her goods were worthless. Every day, a little more of her softness disappeared. By the 3rd year, Mama Grace had become something else entirely. Her laughter had gone. Her trust had gone. In its place grew anger, sharp and relentless. Firemouth, the other traders called her. Her temper became a shield, protecting her from anyone who might harm her financially or emotionally. Despite her temper, her business thrived. People feared her, yes, but they could not resist her yams. On that particular morning, the market was buzzing more than usual. Rumors had spread that a new road would be built near Riverside Market. Traders were expecting more customers, and Mama Grace was determined to sell all her best yams. She arranged her largest yams in the front row, polished them until they shone, and inspected her stack carefully. She worked swiftly, calling out prices, refusing to tolerate any attempt to cheat her. By noon, she had argued with 3 different buyers. Each one had tried to lower her prices or trick her in some small way. She had barked, shouted, and chased them away. And yet, the sun was hot, sweat rolled down her forehead, and her hands ached from lifting heavy yams. Still, Mama Grace stood tall, refusing to show weakness. Then she saw the woman. She walked slowly toward Mama Grace's stall, taking her time to observe every row of yams. Her clothes were simple, her wrapper neat and carefully tied, and her eyes calm and steady. She greeted politely. "Good afternoon," she said softly. Mama Grace barely nodded. She did not smile. She did not trust strangers anymore. "How much is this one?" the woman asked, pointing to a large yam. 3,000 naira, Mama Grace snapped. The woman lifted the yam, inspecting it carefully. "It is a good yam," she said. "Can you take 2,500? For a moment, time slowed for Mama Grace. Her chest burned. Anger rose like a storm. Another person trying to undervalue her goods. Another person disrespecting her years of labor. "Do I look like charity?" she barked. "If you cannot pay, move." The woman raised her hands. "I am only asking," she said calmly. But Mama Grace had been carrying years of pain, loss, and frustration in her chest. Her anger moved faster than her thoughts. She stepped forward and pushed the woman away from her stall. The woman stumbled and fell to the ground. The market went silent. Mama Grace's hands shook. "I did not," she whispered. Then someone from the crowd said something that froze her blood. "Do you know who she is?" No one answered. "She is Inspector Williams's wife." The air grew heavy. Mama Grace felt her knees weaken. Her stomach flipped. Her heart pounded like a drum. She had no idea, none. But destiny had begun to move, slowly closing around her like the tightening of a rope. Traders whispered urgently among themselves. Children peeked from behind baskets. Even the boys running errands stopped mid-step. Everyone knew the reputation of Inspector Williams. And now his wife was lying on the ground because of her push. Mama Grace tried to apologize, but no words seemed strong enough to undo the moment. Her face turned pale. Her mind raced. What would happen next? How would the officer react? Could she survive this encounter? Her past and present were colliding in ways she could never have imagined. At that very moment, Mama Grace realized something terrifying. Life in the market had been a battlefield, and she had thought she was fighting only for money. But today, she was confronting a force far stronger than herself, a force called destiny. And for the first time in years, she felt powerless. The market seemed to hold its breath. Mama Grace's eyes widened as she stared at the woman lying on the ground. The dust clung to her wrapper and her hands rested lightly on her knees. Mama Grace felt a cold knot in her stomach. She wanted to reach out, to apologize, but her pride caught her tongue. Then someone from the crowd shouted, louder than the market's usual chatter, "Do you know who she is?" People parted like the sea. A small group whispered urgently to one another, but Mama Grace could hear nothing but the echo in her own head. "She is the wife of Inspector Williams." The name crashed over her like thunder. Mama Grace froze. Her chest tightened. The heat of the sun seemed to vanish. Her yams, her stall, her entire market world. All of it felt small and fragile. She had heard of Inspector Williams. Everyone in Riverside Market had. He was disciplined, strict, and feared for his fairness and his temper. Mama Grace had thought nothing could shake her. She had been wrong. The woman's eyes lifted to Mama Grace, calm and composed, though there was a faint tremble in her voice. "Please, I am all right," she said softly. Mama Grace opened her mouth, but no words came. She could feel her years of anger and pride crumbling inside her chest. Before she could gather her thoughts, a police vehicle arrived. The tires screeched slightly against the dirt paths of the market, and people stepped quickly aside. The crowd parted, and Mama Grace's heart sank. Inspector Williams stepped out. He was tall and imposing in his uniform, the stripes and badges catching the sun. His eyes were calm but sharp, scanning the market like a hawk. He approached his wife first, gently helping her to sit upright. "I'm fine," she said. Her voice was steady, but Mama Grace could see the redness of embarrassment on her cheeks. The inspector's gaze shifted slowly to Mama Grace. "Who did this?" he asked, his voice calm but carrying a weight that made the market fall silent. Several hands rose, fingers pointed. "It was her," one trader whispered. "Mama Grace." Mama Grace felt her knees weaken. The hand she had raised to adjust her wrapper trembled slightly. I didn't know," she began, but the words felt hollow. Inspector Williams's eyes locked on her. "You pushed my wife," Mama Grace swallowed hard. She priced my yam low. I didn't know she was your wife." The officer's gaze did not waver. "If she were not my wife, would that make it right?" She had no answer. The market seemed to close in around her. Two officers stepped forward, placing handcuffs on her wrists. The cold metal bit into her skin. Her stomach churned. The market that had once bowed to her voice now watched silently. No one stepped forward to defend her. No one spoke. She was led away, her feet dragging slightly in disbelief. Traders whispered. Children peeked. Some mothers muttered prayers. The market was alive with murmurs, but Mama Grace felt alone. Inside the police vehicle, the engine's low hum did little to calm her racing heart. Her mind replayed the moment over and over. The push, the fall, the gasp of the crowd, the whispered name that had sounded like a death sentence. At the station, she was placed in a small holding room. The walls were bare. A single bench, hard and unwelcoming, was the only furniture. Mama Grace sank onto it, burying her face in her hands. "What have I done?" she whispered. Hours passed slowly. She thought of Daniel, her late husband. How would he have acted? How would he have stopped this moment from turning into disaster? She felt guilt twisting in her chest. She had been so consumed with anger for years, so protective of her hard-earned money, that she had never imagined one small act could have such consequences. Then a knock at the door. Mama Grace looked up. "Grace," a calm voice called. Her heart leaped. It was him, Inspector Williams himself. He stepped inside, his uniform perfectly neat, his expression unreadable. Mama Grace's throat went dry. "I would like to speak with you," he said. Her mind raced. She imagined shouting. She imagined punishment. She imagined years of humiliation and shame. Instead, he continued calmly, "My wife wants to see you." Mama Grace blinked. Confusion and fear collided inside her. "She wants to see me?" "Yes." The next morning, she was escorted to the hospital where the inspector's wife was being treated. The hall smelled faintly of antiseptic and flowers. Mama Grace felt small as she entered the room. There she was, sitting upright, her hair neatly tied back, her eyes calm but warm. She smiled softly. "I am sorry," Mama Grace said immediately. The words tumbled out of her mouth before her pride could stop them. The woman shook her head gently. "I know," she said. "You should hate me," Mama Grace said, tears threatening to spill. The woman's expression softened. "No, I forgive you." Mama Grace stared at her. "Why?" "Because I understand," the woman said quietly, "because anger can be heavy. And I refuse to carry it." Mama Grace's chest tightened. She had never met anyone who spoke to her this way before, calm, steady, forgiving. Someone willing to meet her mistake with understanding instead of punishment. Then the woman looked at her more closely. "Your husband, Daniel, right?" Mama Grace's breath caught in her throat. How did she know? "Yes," she whispered. The woman's eyes were steady. "I knew him." Mama Grace felt her heart skip. "How?" The woman took a deep breath. "He saved my family once, a long time ago. Before everything." Mama Grace's hands trembled. The memories of Daniel, of the accident, of her anger came crashing down. She realized for the first time in years that her world was connected to forces and people she had never understood. And the push, the fall, it was only the beginning of a story she had not yet known. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of a monitor and the occasional distant sound of footsteps in the hallway. Mama Grace's hands were still shaking from the events of the market. She had never imagined that one push, one moment of anger, could lead her here, to this sterile room, in front of a woman she had unintentionally hurt. The inspector's wife, sitting up on the hospital bed, watched her carefully. There was no anger in her eyes, only a calm that made Mama Grace feel exposed in a way she had not felt in years. "I forgive you," the woman repeated gently. Mama Grace bowed her head. She could feel the tears building, hot and relentless. I don't know why," she whispered. "Why are you not angry?" The woman smiled faintly. "Because I know what anger does. It burns the person holding it more than anyone else. I have seen it destroy lives. I will not let it destroy mine or yours." Mama Grace's mind raced. She had lived 10 years in anger, shouting at children, insulting customers, defending herself with pride and sharp words. She had thought she was protecting herself. But now she realized that all her fire had only isolated her. The woman leaned forward slightly. "Your husband, Daniel, he saved my family once. A long time ago." Mama Grace froze, her heart skipped a beat. "Saved your family?" "Yes," the woman said softly. "Before your accident, before your loss. He was there when my family needed him most. He did not hesitate. He risked himself to help people he barely knew." Mama Grace felt tears prick her eyes. She remembered Daniel's kindness, his smile, his gentle voice. But she had thought of those moments only in memory, not as evidence of the impact he had on others. The woman continued, "My brother, he got into trouble that night. His car was stuck in a dangerous place and the highway was busy. Your husband helped him, moved the car to safety, and made sure no one was hurt. He never thought of himself. He saved my brother. Mama Grace's chest tightened. The memory of that night, the accident, the loss, everything collided. I didn't know, she whispered. The woman nodded. Most people don't. We were afraid to tell you because we didn't want to remind you of your pain, but when I came to Riverside Market today, I saw your face, and I recognized something familiar. Mama Grace's tears fell freely now. She could hardly speak. All these years, and I have been angry at the world, angry at life, and yet I was connected to them. Yes, the woman said gently, your husband's kindness touched my family long before he was gone. And now you are here. I see the fear and the regret in your eyes, but I also see something else, something that can heal. Mama Grace blinked, trying to steady herself. How can I fix this? The woman's eyes softened. You cannot undo the past, but you can choose how to live moving forward. The anger that has protected you can now be replaced with understanding. Your husband's legacy, his kindness, it is bigger than your pain. Mama Grace closed her eyes. The weight of her years of shouting, fighting, defending herself seemed to settle on her shoulders all at once. And for the first time, she felt it lift slightly. The woman leaned closer. There is something else you should know. Mama Grace's breath caught. What? When your husband helped my brother that night, the woman continued, he risked his own life. If the accident had been just a little different, if the other car had moved too late, things could have gone badly. He made a choice to help a stranger. He never spoke of it. He never wanted anyone to know. That was his way. Quiet kindness, even at a cost. Mama Grace felt her throat tighten. He sacrificed himself without knowing it. Yes, the woman said softly, and that is why I forgive you. Because your anger was born from pain, but there is another way. The world connects people in ways we do not understand. Your husband's kindness touched my family, and now I can help yours. Mama Grace's eyes widened. Help? Mine? The woman nodded. I want to help your children's education, your stall, your work. I want to give them an opportunity. Not charity, but gratitude for the man who saved my family. Mama Grace's knees trembled. I don't know what to say. Say yes, the woman replied gently, and then start forgiving yourself. For the first time in 10 years, Mama Grace allowed herself to breathe. She let the tears flow, not with anger, not with frustration, but with relief. She realized that the push in the market, the arrest, the humiliation, everything had led her here. To understanding, to connection, to a second chance. She looked at the woman who had forgiven her, and she saw not only kindness, but a reflection of the man she had loved and lost. Daniel's spirit, his generosity, and his heart were present in this moment. And she understood, finally, that life's twists were not punishments. They were lessons. Inspector Williams entered quietly, standing behind his wife. She has told you the truth, he said. Your husband made a difference, and now you can choose to make a difference too. Mama Grace nodded, her heart heavy and light all at once. She realized that she could no longer live in anger, that she could no longer hide behind her sharp words. Her path forward was not easy, but it was clear. Yes, she whispered, I will start again. And in that moment, she felt the weight of the past begin to lift, replaced by the first gentle rays of hope. Mama Grace left the hospital that day with a heavy heart and a mind full of questions. The sun was high over Riverside Market, casting shadows across the stalls. The usual chaos of buyers shouting, children running, and traders arranging goods was happening, but Mama Grace felt a strange quietness inside her. She no longer felt like the unstoppable firemouth she had been. Instead, a new weight rested on her chest, a mixture of guilt, understanding, and a flicker of hope. She approached her stall cautiously, half expecting the market to react to her recent humiliation. Whispers followed her as she lifted her yams with careful hands. Some traders stared openly, others whispered among themselves. Children peered at her curiously from behind baskets. Mama Grace realized something she had long ignored. Her anger had isolated her. For years, she had pushed away friends, neighbors, and even family at times. Her voice, once a shield, had become a wall. And now, after meeting Inspector Williams's wife and learning of Daniel's quiet sacrifice, she could feel cracks forming in that wall. She arranged her yams slowly, almost meditatively. Each movement felt different, less rushed, less defensive. She noticed the bright sunlight glinting off the fresh tubers. She could hear the laughter of children at a nearby stall. She even caught the smell of roasted plantains drifting through the market. It was like she was seeing the world again for the first time in 10 years. A young girl approached her stall timidly. "Good morning, Mama Grace," she said softly. Mama Grace looked at her, and for the first time she returned the smile fully. "Good morning, my child. Are you here to buy yam?" The girl nodded. "Yes, but I only have 200 naira." Mama Grace's old anger threatened to rise. Her instincts screamed, "Push her away, she cannot bargain with me." But she stopped herself. She remembered the hospital. She remembered the calm eyes of the woman who had forgiven her. She remembered the story of Daniel and how one small act of kindness had saved a life. Mama Grace knelt slightly. 200 naira will not buy the whole yam," she said gently, "but you can take this small piece. Go home and make your family happy." The girl's eyes widened. She took the yam carefully and ran off, smiling. Mama Grace felt something stir deep inside her. It was a feeling she had forgotten, joy in giving without expectation. Just then, a familiar voice called her name. "Mama Grace." She turned to see Inspector William's wife approaching, walking gracefully through the market. She smiled warmly. "I came to see how you are," she said softly, "and to see how the children are." Mama Grace nodded, feeling both nervous and relieved. "They are fine, thanks to you. I still cannot believe your generosity." The woman shook her head. "It was not generosity. It was gratitude. Your husband's kindness touched my family. I am only returning it." Mama Grace's eyes filled with tears again. "All these years, and I thought my anger was my strength. But now I see, it was only my prison." The woman took her hand. "You can start again, Grace, but you must be willing to forgive yourself too." Mama Grace nodded. She realized how heavy her anger had been, not just in the market, but in her life. It had shaped her children's experiences, her relationships with other traders, and even her own happiness. For the first time, she allowed herself to remember Daniel with a smile instead of a pang of grief. She remembered his laughter, his patience, and the countless little acts of kindness that had defined his life. And she realized something important. His sacrifice, though quiet, had left a legacy she could honor. Over the next few weeks, Mama Grace's behavior began to change. She greeted customers politely. She listened before speaking. She began helping other traders when she could. She even laughed softly when children made mistakes near her stall, instead of shouting at them as she used to. One afternoon, she saw the woman again, standing near a fruit stall. She walked over, smiling. "Your children," the woman said warmly, "are doing well in school, aren't they?" Mama Grace nodded, tears threatening again. "Yes. Thanks to you, they are learning more than I ever imagined possible." The woman's eyes glimmered. "They are learning about kindness too, about forgiveness, about the strength that comes not from anger, but from understanding." Mama Grace nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She realized that the path she had been on, full of anger, shouting, and isolation, was not the only path. There was another way, one that honored Daniel's life and sacrifices. That evening, as she closed her stall, Mama Grace paused and looked around the market. The sun was setting, casting golden light over the stalls. She saw traders laughing together, children running freely, women calling out prices to customers. And she realized that she was no longer alone in this busy, chaotic world. She could still be strong. But now she knew that strength was not only in anger. It was in understanding, in patience, in forgiveness, in small acts of kindness that could ripple out and touch lives far beyond her own. Mama Grace knelt quietly beside her stack of yams. She whispered softly to herself, "Daniel, I will honor you. I will carry your kindness, not anger. I will teach my children that life is bigger than me and bigger than my pain." And in that moment, something shifted. The market, once a battlefield for her pride, felt like a place of possibility. She could see a future where her stall was not only a place to sell yams, but a place to teach, to guide, and to share hope. The days that followed were not easy. Some traders still whispered, some customers tried to test her patience, but Mama Grace was different now. She greeted them, listened, and sometimes, when someone struggled to pay, she helped. And slowly the market began to change with her. People stopped fearing her. They started respecting her. Children lingered near her stall, asking questions and laughing. And Mama Grace realized that her voice, once used to shout, could now be used to teach, guide, and encourage. Her transformation was quiet at first, almost invisible. But it was real. It was lasting. And deep down, Mama Grace knew that the push in the market, the arrest, the hospital confrontation, it had all led her here, to forgiveness, to understanding, to a new kind of strength. The sun rose slowly over Riverside Market, painting the stalls with golden light. The chatter of traders, the calls of children, the scent of roasted plantains and fresh yams. All of it felt different to Mama Grace. It was not just another day in the market. It was the day she would finally understand the weight of her past, the lessons of her anger, and the legacy of her husband, Daniel. Mama Grace stood at her stall, arranging her yams carefully. But this morning, something inside her had changed. She no longer saw the crowd as potential challengers. She saw them as part of her world, a world she had almost lost to anger and pride. A group of customers approached. One of them, a small boy with a shy smile, held a few coins in his hand. He wanted to buy a yam for his mother. Mama Grace knelt slightly to meet his eyes. "Here," she said gently, "take this one, go home and make your family happy." The boy's eyes widened, and he ran off with the yam beaming. Mama Grace felt a warmth she had not felt in years. Then she heard a familiar voice behind her. "Grace." She turned to see Inspector Williams and his wife walking toward her. The market had paused around them, traders watching quietly, sensing something important was happening. "Good morning," Mama Grace said softly, bowing her head in respect. Inspector Williams's wife smiled. "Good morning. I came to see how you are, and to witness something special today." Mama Grace blinked. "Special?" "Yes," the woman replied. "Your husband Daniel. He was more than just a husband, a father, a friend. He saved my family once, and today we want to honor that sacrifice through you." The crowd leaned closer, curious. Mama Grace's heart pounded. She felt exposed but also strangely calm. She realized that this moment was not about punishment or shame. It was about connection, forgiveness, and life's mysterious ways. Inspector Williams stepped forward. "Mama Grace," he said, his voice strong yet gentle, "your husband's act of kindness, quiet, unspoken, and brave, saved lives that day. And through you his legacy continues. Your transformation, your forgiveness, and your courage have reminded all of us that strength is not only in anger or power, it is in understanding and mercy." Mama Grace's eyes filled with tears. She felt the weight of 10 years, the loss, the anger, the loneliness, lifting slowly. She saw the crowd of traders, of children, of neighbors, and she realized she was not alone. A hush fell over Riverside Market as she raised her hand slightly, her voice soft but confident. "My friends," she began, "I have been proud, angry, and harsh for many years. I thought my strength was in shouting, in defending myself, in being feared. But I was wrong. True strength comes from patience, from understanding, and from forgiveness. Life is not about holding grudges. Life is about kindness, even when it is hard. My husband, Daniel, taught me that, even if he did not know it. And today, I am learning it for myself. And for my children." The crowd was silent for a moment, absorbing her words. Then, slowly, traders nodded. Children smiled. Even the small boy who had bought the yam earlier waved at her. Mama Grace smiled back, feeling a lightness she had not known in a decade. Inspector Williams's wife approached and whispered, "You have honored him, Grace. You have honored life." Mama Grace nodded. "I will continue to honor him, and his kindness will live through me." And with that, she made a decision. From that day forward, her stall would not only be a place to sell yams, It would be a place of guidance, a place to teach children patience, honesty, and respect. She would show them that even small acts of kindness can ripple out and change lives. Weeks turned into months, and Riverside Market slowly began to change with her. Traders who once feared her approached her with respect. Customers returned not just for her yams, but for her warmth and guidance. Children ran to her stall, not afraid, but eager to learn. Mama Grace often remembered the push, the fall, the hospital, and the revelations about Daniel's sacrifice. What had seemed like a moment of anger and misfortune had turned into a lesson about life, forgiveness, and the power of small, courageous actions. And in the quiet moments of the evening, she would kneel beside her stack of yams and whisper a prayer. "Daniel, I honor you, I forgive myself, and I will live a life that spreads the kindness you always showed." Moral lesson. This story reminds us that anger and pride may protect us for a while, but they can also isolate us from life's true blessings. True strength is not in shouting or pushing others away. It is in patience, understanding, and forgiveness. Small acts of kindness, even when unnoticed, can change lives forever. Sometimes, the greatest lessons come from our hardest moments, and the paths we least expect may guide us to growth, redemption, and love. Dear viewers, remember, life is a journey filled with challenges, misunderstandings, and moments that test our patience. When you encounter anger, whether in others or in yourself, pause, forgive, and act with kindness. You never know how one small choice can ripple into countless lives. If this story inspired you, like, share, and subscribe so more people can hear these lessons. And comment below. How would you handle a moment like Mama Grace's? Thank you so much for watching. May God bless you and guide your heart always.